Hello friends, today we will explore the subject of IS and LM curve. In this session, we will try to understand how IS and LM curve are individually derived. We will also try and understand some important issues like reasons for shift in IS and LM curve. To start with, let us understand what is IS-LM curve. The IS-LM is short form of investment saving and liquidity preference money supply macroeconomic model. This model was developed by the post-Keynesian economists like Hicks and Hansen. Through this model, they attempt to synthesize the real sector with the monetary sector. Their approach was to create a journal equilibrium analysis of the economy by determining the equilibrium of the real sector and the monetary sector. The IS, that is, investment and saving, curve is related with the equilibrium of real sector known as goods market. It shows the equality between aggregate demand, that is C plus I for output, and aggregate supply of output through the movement of income and rate of interest. The LM curve, on the other hand, is associated with the equilibrium of money market. It shows the equality between the demand for and supply of money through changes in the income and rate of interest. Let us now learn about goods market equilibrium, that is, derivation of IS curve. The goods market or the real sector is in equilibrium when aggregate demand for goods is equal to aggregate supply. In Keynesian model of income determination, the important components of aggregate demand is investment demand, which is inversely related with rate of interest. When rate of interest changes, the investment demand also changes. This change in investment demand shifts the aggregate demand curve and brings about a change in equilibrium level of income. Hence, IS curve is defined as the locus of various combination of rate of interest and national income where goods market is in equilibrium. When the rate of interest falls, the level of investment increases and vice versa. Thus, as a result of fall in rate of interest, a businessman will undertake greater investment at lower rate of interest and vice versa. When the rate of interest increases, it is noticed, as in part A of figure, that at RO rate of interest, planned investment is I0 investment, whereas the aggregate demand curve is C plus I0 in part B. At this aggregate demand, equilibrium level of national income is determined at Y0. In part C of the figure, it is observed that Y0 national income is connected with R0 rate of interest, which is represented by point A. When rate of interest falls from R0 to R1, the profitability of investments rises, which increases the planned investment to I1. Due to increase in investment, the AD curve shifts from C plus I0 to C plus I1 in part B. As a result, equilibrium level of national income increases to Y1. This higher level of national income, Y1, is plotted against the lower rate of interest R1 by point B in part C. Similarly, if the rate of interest again falls to R2, investment increases to I2. AD curve shifts to C plus I2, where national income increases to Y2. This R2 and Y2 is represented by point D in part C. By joining the points A, B and D, the IS curve is derived. The same IS curve can also be explained with an alternative method with the help of 4 quadratic figure. Friends, did you observe that IS curve slopes downwards? Let us now understand for the same. The nature of IS curve shows that it slopes downward from left to right. The downward sloping can be explained as a chain which can be represented as when rate of interest decreases, investment increases, and thus AD curve shifts upward. The same AD curve shifts when it shifts upward, the equilibrium level increases and hence national income increases. Thus, it can be explained that there is an inverse relation between national income and rate of interest. The steepness or slope of IS curve depends upon two things. First, the responsiveness of investment demand curve to changes in rate of interest, that is, the interest elasticity of investment demand curve, and second, the size of the multiplier. So, after understanding that why IS curve is downward sloping, now let us understand the shifting of IS curve. Understand that it is the level of autonomous expenditure which determines the position of the IS curve, and changes in the autonomous expenditure causes a shift in it. The IS curve can be shifted either to the right or to the left. An increase in autonomous expenditure shifts the AD curve upward to the left. It brings about an increase in national income and causes the IS curve to shift the right. Similarly, a decrease in autonomous expenditure shifts the IS curve to the left. It can be concluded that in a goods market equilibrium, the investment expenditure is treated as autonomous of the level of income and therefore does not vary as the level of income increases. It should be noted that the investment spending in this model is determined by the rate of interest along with marginal efficiency of investment. Let us try to understand this with the help of a figure. In the figure A, we can observe that with decrease in interest rate from R0 to R1, investment increases from I0 to I1. Whereas in figure B, with the increase in government expenditure, the total expenditure increases from C plus I0 to C plus I1. When normal expenditure increases, shift is to C plus I1 plus G. In figure C, national income has increased with the expenditure of the government. Now, we will move towards LM curve. As we know, LM curve is known as liquidity money supply macroeconomic model. The LM curve represents equilibrium in money market. The money market is in equilibrium when demand for money equals supply of money. Demand for money has three motives, which includes transaction demand, precautionary demand and speculative demand. But we will understand only two demand motives here, that is transaction motive and speculative motive. The transaction demand for money is a function of level of income. Higher is the level of income, greater is the transaction demand for money, which shifts the demand for money curve to the higher level. The speculative demand for money is the function of the rate of interest. Given the level of income, higher the rate of interest, lower is the speculative demand for money and vice versa. Thus, total demand for money can be expressed as L equals to the function of Y, that is income, and R, where L equals to demand for money, Y is the real income and R is rate of interest. The LM curve relates the level of income with the rate of interest, which is determined by money market equilibrium corresponding to different levels of demand for money. Normally, the supply of money remains constant in the short run, which makes the money supply curve a vertical straight line. Let us see the figure here. In part A of this figure, L0 is the demand curve for money at Y0 income level. When the level of income rises from Y0 to Y1 and further shifts to Y2, the demand for money shifts to L1 and further to L2. Money supply is the supply curve of money, which is a vertical straight line. It implies that quantity of money in circulation is constant. Given the money supply curve, if the demand curve for money is L0, equilibrium rate of interest is determined at R0. It implies that at R0 rate of interest, Y0 income level, the money market is in equilibrium. When the demand curve for money shifts to L1, equilibrium rate of interest rises to R1. Again, if demand curve for money shifts further to L2, rate of interest again rises to R2. Thus, there are three different rate of interest such as R0, R1 and R2 corresponding to three different levels of income, namely Y0, Y1 and Y2, at which money market is at equilibrium, representing the same level of income on x-axis and corresponding same rate of interest on y-axis. In part B, R0, R1 and R2 are connected with Y0, Y1 and Y2, deriving the LM curve. The LM curve thus derived slopes upward to the right. It implies that higher the rate of interest, higher would be the level of income. So as to achieve equilibrium in the money market, as similar to IS curve, LM curve can also be represented by 4 quadratic diagram. Now let us study the slope of LM curve. It is evident from this figure that there is a positive relation between rate of interest and national income. This is because as the income increases, the demand for money, both for transaction and speculative money, increases consequently as known, and a higher rate of interest is derived in the money market. The two factors that determines the slope of LM curve are income elasticity of demand for money, that is responsiveness of demand for money to the changes in level of income. Second, interest elasticity of demand for money, that is responsiveness of demand for money to the changes in rate of interest. Now let us know about some spatial features and shift in LM curve. It is the schedule of various combinations of rate of interest and income, where money market is in equilibrium. Second, it is also important to note that LM curve is flatter if interest elasticity of demand for money is higher and is steeper if interest elasticity of demand for money is low. Third, LM curve shifts right as the stock of money supply increases and towards left as the stock of money supply decreases. Fourth, LM curve shifts to left hand side if there is increase in demand for money. Thus, the increases the ROI, and LM curve shifts to the right hand side if there is a fall in demand for money. Thereby, rate of interest falls down and hence creates the demand for excess of money supply. Thus, LM curve shifts either due to the change in demand or change in supply of stock of money. However, the slope of LM curve depends upon the rate of interest. Now let us revise what we covered today in this session. In this topic, we have discussed the meaning of IS-LM curve, the role of demand for money and supply of money, the causes of shifting of IS and LM curves, and understood the fluctuation of rate of interest determines income with the help of demand for money and supply of money. Hope you enjoyed today's learning session. We wish to see you again. Thank you.